Hi, I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to FinextraTV. Kindly calling into our virtual studio today is Jagadish, Head of Corporate Products and Services at TD Bank. So Joe, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Hannah.
Well, it's good to have you on. Now, today we're talking about corporate banking and how banks are using ecosystems to drive growth and profits, which was a really big topic at this year's Suntech Confluence. But first, and to sort of set the scene, can you tell us what's the current state of play in the corporate market today? And can you tell us a bit about where we're up to? Let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would say, I think the landscape of corporate banking ecosystems tends to vary as much as I've seen between geographies, right? The ecosystem plays that we see in the US across the banking sector are quite different than the ecosystem plays that we see in banks in Asia or Africa or Europe for that matter as well. I think in the US, banks tend to focus more on banking adjacent capabilities. So, whether you're on the retail side, the homeowner's journey or car ownership, those are some of the ecosystem plays. And in the small business space, invoicing, accounting, budgeting, forecasting tools for small businesses. And then when we get to the corporate banking space, really, providing corporate, treasury clients and cash managers the ability to optimize, real-time cash positions, optimizing, their treasury insights. Those are some of the capabilities, embedded banking into their TMS platforms or their ERP systems. We tend to see more banking adjacent capabilities in the US or North America specifically, relative to, when we look at our peer banks, across the world. I think what we tend to see are just a lot more, or the proliferation of a lot more use cases that not necessarily feel like they are, kind of banking related. And that's, I think, a very interesting paradigm that speaks to the end consumer, right? So whether that's a retail consumer or a corporate customer, what their expectations of their relationship with their bank provider is. I think that paradigm is very different here in the US than it is in other parts of the world. So that's a really interesting, I think, trend that we've continued to see around banking ecosystems.
All right, that's an interesting comparison there. So let's talk a bit about partnerships. How are ecosystem partnerships making banks more relevant to customers today? What about that?
Yeah, I think I think partnerships are critical. They are, again, as a large financial services provider, there are only so many priorities that you're focused on. What ecosystem partnerships allow you to do is really be able to broaden the scope of the services and the capabilities and the relationships that you can offer to your customers, but working with a partner that is laserly focused in that space. So, as a bank, would we always, be an expert in payroll services or accounting services? We have some synergies there, but I think, working with a partner that is, day in and day out focused on the journey and the capabilities of those niche services allows you to then, partner with those types of providers and create more fulfilling ecosystems. So because, we're so centered on the customer experience, and making sure that you have the right amount of focus. I think the way to go about is through partnerships. No one organization is really going to be able to solve for everything or all of the needs that corporate clients or commercial clients or small business clients have. And I think it's important to then be able to partner with the right set of companies to be able to take those capabilities to market.
All right, you've highlighted the importance of partnerships there, and we've done some good advice, I think, as well. So that leads me quite nicely into my last question then, and what does the future hold in this space, and what hurdles are still left to jump? Because do you think ecosystems will be crucial for bank profitability moving forward into the future as well?
I do. I think that, as you think about, as a banker, some of the things that we think about are how do we continue to deepen our relationship with our customers. And, in order to do that, not only are we focused on, really, effective solutions that are our bread and butter, and those are things like, our payments and our accounting capabilities, and our lending products, but it was also kind of creating an ecosystem where our customers, they know when they bank with TD, they will get more than just banking services, right? And it is easy for them to run their business. It is efficient for them to run their business when they bank with a bank like TD. So we think that ecosystem partnerships continue to be a good way for us to accomplish that. And we only see the trend to continue down this space. I think in terms of challenges and some of the hurdles, I think, when you think about partnerships, every company has its own culture, its own DNA, and sometimes it takes time and you have to be very focused on finding the right partner. That is, I think, incredibly important. You have to make sure that the technology is sound and stable for large financial organizations. And so we put a significant amount of emphasis on things like, the technology stack, the, cybersecurity, the controls. We are obviously regulated entities. And so we want to make sure that any company that we partner with really have the breadth and the security and the scale that meets the needs of TD Bank. And so I think those would be, I wouldn't call them hurdles. I just think that, these are things that we have to be mindful of as we form new partnerships in this space.
But it sounds like you're having the right discussions and some really interesting developments further down the line. But Joe, we'll leave it there. And thank you to Suntech for setting this up. It's been really insightful. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thanks. It was a pleasure.